I will admit I do love the snow up to December 25th. And then on the 26th, it's like, all right, get it all out. Let's go. Never again. Not till next year in December. This time of year, it's pretty. It is calming. But why, oh why, does it always seem to hit at like 4:30 during the week? Like last year, was it last year or 2 years ago, the NBA All-Star Game went on Friday. Was that 2 years ago?
I believe
2 seasons ago, right?
I believe so, yeah.
And the All-Star Game literally on like 4:45 on a Friday, boom, snow. Similar last night, and it led to, and everybody was good, and I appreciate that, but obviously it was slow going in terms of getting down for the Pacer game, and that led to a late arriving crowd. It was like literally last night at Gainbridge Fieldhouse was like being the weather antithesis of being in Miami, but the crowd arrival time of being at a Heat game. Very late arriving crowd, although it turned out to be a decent crowd, and for the Pacers, they got down big early to Cleveland and then came back, made it presentable, and then late you could tell that Rick Carlisle wanted to get some guys some minutes, and Cleveland ends up winning. More on that coming up on the show today, and I really did think on my way in today that what we would probably be talking about more than anything else today would be kind of this cornucopia, kind of this hodgepodge of the combination in no particular order of the Pacers game last night, the Big Ten championship game, and the Colts trying out kickers. And Shane Steichen being kind of non-committal on that and just saying, well, pass the buck on that. Shane, your thoughts on kickers trying? Well, you know what? That's Chris makes those decisions, and I'll go with whatever it may be. It does seem as though Shane Steichen really likes Michael Badgley as a dude, but the way that he's playing right now, there's a reason why, they're bringing in kickers apparently for tryouts today. One of them from New Orleans that's trying out. Kickers in the NFL are kind of like your fantasy team, in the fact that in your fantasy team, Eddie, who's your kicker on your fantasy team? Nobody cares about your fantasy team in our Chicago's Pizza Fantasy League, but we're going to mention it for this discussion. Your kicker is who in fantasy football?
I'm not even sure.
Exactly, right? Because unless you have like one of three kickers in the NFL.
Brandon Aubrey.
Okay, now is that who you've had all year, or is
Yes.
that who you picked up because your initial guy had a bye week?
I've had him all year.
So what did you do when he was on bye?
I just left the spot blank.
You didn't go and get another kicker?
I did not.
Okay. Because, exactly, right? You're like, it's some people, they're like, I just waive the kicker and then I bring one on for bye week, and then if I think of it, if the other guy's available, I go back to him, but if somebody else picked him up, whatever. And that's kind of how the NFL, unless you have one of like 3 or 4 mainline kickers, it is a position that can be kind of a revolving door. And the Colts are finding that out right now, with Spencer Schrader obviously being out for the year, and then now you see where they are and what the situation is. But it is, you would like to think that's the least of your concerns. There are other concerns for the Colts, and that's what, as I'm thinking about things that we're going to talk about today, the Colts, the Big Ten Championship, the Pacers, all of those things, and a very unpopular opinion I have about the Big Ten title game. I'm bracing myself for something that I thought, and this is, let me tell you the challenge that I have. My life is I don't have a lot of like difficulties. I'm the first to admit that. I'm extremely fortunate. But if there's one thing that I can say can become a challenge for me, Eddie, and you will, I think, agree with me on this, my brain is such that there are times where there is something to me that seems so incredibly obvious. Black and white, no gray area. And yet then I find out that the masses see it as a topic that is a gray area or something that they just don't care about. And I'm like, but no, there's only one way to think on this. And that's a challenge for me. That's always been difficult for me because I have an inability sometimes to understand how people would not see something that I deem to be very obvious as not so obvious. I have one of those opinions and observations today that I assumed when I first outwardly said it to a few people that they were going to go, totally agree with you. And I was stunned to find out that it appears as though I am literally like Tom Hanks in Castaway, and I'm alone on an island with just a volleyball. But I'll let you know what that opinion is coming up in just a little bit as it relates to the Big Ten title game. But let's get back to the Colts. And something that, to me, is a subtle storyline that I think we need to keep an eye on. And I worry. I hope I'm wrong. But I worry that I'm not going to be wrong in this. Okay? I have an increasing concern about Charvarius Ward, Mooney Ward. Not as a player, not as an ability guy. I mean, I think he's a talented player, okay? But the area where I have concern would be this. Concussions are something in the NFL today that I totally applaud and support the awareness and the diligence that the NFL goes through now in terms of making sure that player safety is a priority. I think we are seeing now with former players and CTE, and I know these are buzzwords and it became like a big talking point and almost maybe to the point of exhaustion, but we're seeing from former players, and I've seen it personally, of guys that I really, really like and have done, worked with and things like that were former players that suffer now greatly because of the number of concussions, theoretically, or assuming that that's what it's related to, that they have post-playing career challenges. I was talking to somebody in the press box on Sunday who has been around the game for a very long time, and we were talking about the old RCA Dome and the fact that, I mean, it is amazing to think now retroactively that in the early years of the Colts playing in Indianapolis when they played in the Hoosier Dome, later the RCA Dome, they literally in the early years there were playing on a slab of concrete with like a yoga mat on top of it and then plastic turf. That was it. The only thing between you and getting slammed into concrete was a 2-inch pad. And we were saying that this gentleman was saying to me, he was like, man, if they had the protocols and the awareness and the conscientiousness about neurological stuff today, or, back then that they have today, who knows how many games guys would have missed back in 1985, 87, 88. I applaud and I champion the manner in which they're doing it now. When it comes to brain safety, and neurologically speaking, I'm not a neurologist, but the human brain appears to be the last frontier of medical understanding, and the fact that we still are learning about what makes it work and what damages it, and et cetera. Now, with all of that said, we know that Mooney Ward had a concussion, missed time from a concussion, then came back, and then had the second concussion that happened during the pregame when he collided with Drew Ogletree. He has played a total, I believe, 5 games so far this year, right? He's played 5 games for the Colts. But in the time that he has come back, he has admittedly looked not necessarily – I remember 2 weeks ago in Kansas City saying, I think we said it on this show, that there were times where he just looked a step slow. He looked a little bit off and behind. And athletes inherently are competitors. Athletes inherently are trying to put food on the table. They're trying to win games. They're trying to, I have always said, Eddie, when it comes to this job, and JMV, I think, and I have talked about this. I've done this for a long time, and even still, I'm always worried about or paranoid of or hesitant to take extensive vacation time or time off because I'm well aware of the fact that you're easily replaced. Somebody else comes in, does a really good job, and it's like, okay, well, there you go. Like, there is a competitive nature that takes place with that. And for pro athletes, I think it's the same. The reason I say all that is because more often than not, guys are not honest about injury. more often than not, guys in the competitive nature, because they want to, A, help their team win, and B, they don't want to give up their seat, they mask when things are not 100%. They're not totally honest about it. Peyton Manning made the joke about the fact that, like, when he would, at the beginning of the year, have to do the precursor for the concussion test, he would kind of throw it so that it would make it that much more difficult to know if he truly had a concussion so that they wouldn't take him out of games. He was being flippant, but the core of it is there. I say all of that to say this. Mooney Ward yesterday, after we got off the air, was asked about his level of play since coming back from concussion protocol. And more often than not, athletes say, no, I'm good. It just, takes a little bit of time your timing's a little bit off, but it was good to get out there with the guys, and I'm getting my feet back underneath me, etc. That's usually what guys say. But after doing this a long time, you can start to hear when guys say something and you go, whoa, that's different. This is Mooney Ward yesterday when asked about his level of play and whether or not it was still not at where it needs to be in his eyes coming off of concussion protocol.
You just got to get my mind right and my heart right. Once I get my mind right, my heart right, I think my physical body and the way I perform, that'll be good. But like I said, as long as my mind cloudy, I don't really play good all the time. So I'm just trying to, focus in, lock in, and get focused, and I think I'll start playing better.
Okay. I applaud his honesty. I applaud his transparency. But that, to me, is extremely troubling. And I'm not talking about from a football standpoint. I'm not talking about that's troubling. Why is a guy out there if he's not 100%? That's up. The Colts best understand, and Mooney Ward best understands. Maybe Mooney Ward at 70% is better than his backup at 100. I get all that. And from his standpoint, sure, you have an obligation. You played in Kansas City and San Francisco. Now you're in Indianapolis. You come back. He had a big play when they went in Kansas City. Don't get me wrong, but play this again, Eddie. Play this again and listen for two key phrases here, which we're going to go over afterwards. This, to me, is a developing storyline within the Colts. See, I'm not trying to make a mountain out of a molehill here, but when you have a player being this transparent and using these words like cloudy, mind, and heart, play it again.
You just got to get my mind right and my heart right. Once I get my mind right, my heart right, I think my physical body and the way I perform, that'll be good. But like I said, as long as my mind cloudy, I don't really play good all the time. So I'm just trying to, focus in, lock in, and get focused, and I think I'll start playing better.
I think I'll start playing better, but as long as my mind is cloudy, I don't play good all the time. That is a guy admitting that his mind is cloudy. And when one's mind is cloudy, then their mind and their heart aren't right, as it should be. I'm not condemning him in any way, shape, or form. I applaud his transparency. I applaud his honesty. But that becomes when you have a player who is outwardly admitting that neurologically speaking, he's cloudy. My mind is cloudy, and so I don't play good all the time. When you already have the situation with Sauce Gardner now, we know. I think it's probably going to be 3 games. Yesterday, if you weren't with us yesterday, we had Ralph Reef on, and Ralph has been an athletic trainer for decades at the highest of levels, the top level of athlete amongst all sports. He was the director of assembling the training staffs for the Olympic Games in 1996 in Atlanta. So we're talking the top level of experience and understanding. And he was saying, while not knowing the specifics of Sauce Gardner's injury and not seeing those specifics, that his expertise tells him that the way that the injury was described of Sauce Gardner, that would be a 21-day rest period from the time of basically impact, okay? And that 21-day period would mean 3 games. So let's say 3 to 4 games for Sauce Gardner. The Colts now put themselves, let me rephrase that. That's the wrong word. It's not their fault. The Colts now find themselves in a position where one of the toughest areas to have solidarity and to have consistent depth is defensive back. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it's a jinx, whatever it might be, they're kind of right back, Eddie, to square one. Because going into last season, what did Chris Ballard say when he was asked about the roster of the Colts, when he was asked about the areas that he was trying to shore up? One of the things he said was, look, in terms of defensive backs, like, I got to see my guys play. I got to get them out there and see them play. And Juju Brents, for example, who is no longer here, obviously, at no fault of Juju Brents, it was just the fact that he never got a chance to see him play. And eventually it was like, I've got to see what a guy can do before I can determine what a guy can do. And injuries were such that it was too difficult to get him out there with any consistency. And now, going into this year, you felt good. You feel good about Nick Cross in the safety position, right? You feel really good about, obviously Kenny Moore, you know what you're getting there. And then you go out and you make the trade, not 1, but 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner. You go out and you sign Shavarius Ward. You sign Cam Bynum. I'll give Chris Ballard credit. He went out there and addressed what needed to be addressed. And Jalen Jones is another guy that I got to see him play. But he was dinged up at the beginning of camp. He was dinged up for the outset of the year. And I think he's a nice player. But you put him in there, and now all of a sudden you got Jonathan Edwards. If Ward is not able to go, and I realize that he played and theoretically will be playing this week when they go to Jacksonville. But when you have a guy outwardly saying, my mind's not right, my heart's not right, and my mind is cloudy, he is admitting right there that it's impacting his level of play on the field, and he's admitting it by saying that he is not 100% healed from an area that is the most dangerous and the most sensitive in the National Football League in 2025.
You got to remember, Jake, what he said coming out of concussion protocol. He said he was not feeling better until the bye week, and that was like 2 weeks.
He wondered if he'd ever play again, right?
Yes, correct, yeah.
And I hope the absolute best for him. I don't know him personally. We've had him on the show, I think. I don't know him. I know J&B's had him on several times. I don't know him personally. Seems like a wonderful guy. I'm speaking to this as a human being, not as a football player. The football aspect of it is secondary, and the Colts have to worry about, from the football standpoint, what happens at that position. And maybe I am making a mountain out of a molehill. Maybe I am. But it just is the one area that I think necessitates the most caution when it comes to maintaining and analyzing a player's health. Stephen Holder going to join us, by the way, 2 o'clock today. We will undoubtedly discuss this. Scott Agness going to join us 1 o'clock today. We'll get into what happened last night with the Pacers. Is Jay Huff the most prolific three-point shooter in the first 2 minutes of games in the history of the National Basketball Association?
In the first quarter, yeah.
The other night, when he had 14, he had their first 14 points.
He did.
And we're all laughing about it. And I said, and then we were taking predictions on what he would end up with. He had 14 points in the first 3 minutes of the game. And I said, I'll bet he ends up with 23. I think he ended up with 14, didn't he?
He did.
Last night, he hit a pair of threes in the first couple of possessions, right?
Yep.
What did he end up with last night?
I can't remember.
I go back to what I most enjoy about Jay Huff is, I've said this on the air, he looks like he might be a goat farmer from Vermont. That's what I most enjoy about him.
15.
But I think that, and I was ready to throw in the towel on Jay Huff. I was ready way too early. I went way too early on it of saying, this guy, I can applaud that they went out and tried to give it a shot, but it just ain't going to work. And you know what? In an area where you are desperately trying to find bright spots about the Pacers season, I actually think Jay Huff has been a real bright spot, not because he hits those threes, but because when you look at where they're going to go, and I really, really think this is where they're going to go. I don't know this. This is what Jake Query would do if Jake Query was an executive for the Pacers and Jake Query is not. But I would, at the trade deadline, trade Benedict Mathurin. Nothing against him, but in a numbers game, when you look at the roster and you look to a year, 2 years from now, salaries, everything else, unfortunately, no fault of his own, he's kind of odd man out. I would trade Benedict Mathurin, and I would trade him for an immediately ready-to-play, doesn't need time to get going, athletic big that has experience in the NBA but still has future ahead of him. A Mark Williams type. I'm just using that name generically out of thin air, okay? But an athletic, run-the-floor, can play at pace big. Not one that you've got to wait on, but one that from the time you get him and put him in, once he learns the system, he's good to go. I would trade Mathurin for that player. Then, with the pick that I'm going to have that I brilliantly reacquired in my first-round pick this year, still assuming that's going to be a top 10 or 12 pick, it's going to be a lottery pick, I would use that pick to draft the wing that is Benedict Mathurin's replacement in rotation. Then next year, you have the year to get Tyrese Halliburton back up into pace and back reacclimated and get everything back together again. You bring Obi Toppin back. You got Nesmith healthy. You now have a young off-the-bench wing that can give you 18 to 20 minutes a night and give you, 12 to 15 points that you acquired via the draft. And you have the big that is the Miles Turner replacement. And then notably, you have now off the bench Jay Huff that can give you quality minutes that we have seen in rim protection and in three-point shooting. Not to the level. The longer you've got him on the floor, the more that kind of gets exposed as, okay, this is not an every possession durability guy. But off the bench, for an 18 to 20, 22-minute rotation guy, night in and night out, I really like Jay Huff. I think he's a nice depth piece for them. He is a guy that you probably aren't going to win a lot of games if he's your starting center, but if he is your immediate off-the-bench rotational help-out stretch guy, center guy, whatever else, I think he has shown that that is a really nice piece that they got and that he can really help them moving forward. Speaking of moving forward this weekend at Lucas Oil Stadium, moving forward with the Big Ten season, just 2 remain here for a chance to win the Big Ten championship. The Ohio State Buckeyes, the number 1 team in the land. The number 2 team in the land, the Indiana Hoosiers. The Heisman's on the line. The Big Ten title's on the line. A ton to get to and break down with it. And Dave Revsine is with the Big Ten Network. And Dave Revsine joins us to discuss exactly that on the other side. You just heard J&V talking about it. Indiana and Ohio State for the Big Ten Championship. Lucas Oil Stadium on Saturday night. It will be electric, especially considering Indiana and Louisville in basketball, Gainbridge Fieldhouse Saturday afternoon, and then the nightcap is the big one for all the marbles within the conference. And joining us now on the Java House Peel and Pour guest line, of course, you see him on the Big Ten Network, and they will have all kinds of coverage. We also have Fan Fest tickets for the Big Ten Championship to give away. We will do that upcoming. But Dave Revsine joining me now. Dave, let's begin actually with this question because I know you guys will be locked and loaded. The coverage from the Big Ten Network standpoint of all of the happenings in Indianapolis, I'm sure are vast. Your responsibilities will be what during the time that you're here?
Hey, Jake. Let's see. We're doing Big Ten Today stuff from down on the field on Friday, so that is noon Eastern time. We'll then, I think, head over to the Fan Fest, and we're doing some hits from there, which will air on the show at night, the big show on Friday night. And then Saturday, we have an hour-long preview in the morning. I want to say that is at 11 o'clock Eastern. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe it's noon. And then we're on the air. We're doing all the basketball halftimes from there. I believe we have 4 basketball games during the course of the day on Saturday, and so we'll be doing the halftimes from there, and then we'll have some football content around that in the Fan Fest. So we've got, if you're going to be at the Fan Fest on Saturday, we'll be set up pretty much all day, and people should come on over and give it a listen. That hour-long show will have guests and whatnot. While we're talking, I'll try to get on my computer here and see if I can figure out the time on that, but here we go. 11 o'clock Eastern time.
Okay.
We'll be on the air there on Saturday.
So, Dave, let's begin with this. This matchup is obviously fascinating between Ohio State and Indiana. If you were to rank, okay, if between offense and Ohio State offense, Ohio State defense, Indiana offense, Indiana defense, if you were to rank those 1 through 4, the unit rankings, they would rank what in terms of this game going into it?
Oh, man. I mean, I haven't thought of it in those terms. It's interesting that you would ask. I think I'd say Ohio State defense is definitely the best unit. I mean, I think you maybe have to argue that Indiana's defense is the second best unit in this game. They're second in the nation in scoring defense. I mean, they've been really good. They're so hard to run the ball against. So I'd say that, both the defenses are probably the 2 best units in the game. I don't know that we really know. I know this sounds crazy because we're 12 games in, but I thought it was pretty interesting that Sig was asked yesterday in his news conference, do you think Ohio State may be holding some things back? And he said, I think they might be on offense, which was a crazy idea to me. But the more I thought about it, the more I kind of thought, I wonder whether he is right. I do think Indiana's offense, what we've seen this year, I think Indiana's offense is better than Ohio State's offense. Ohio State has the best individual player in this game. I just think Jeremiah Smith is at a different level.
Agreed.
I
Dave,
really do.
Dave, I actually, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, I told somebody, Jeremiah Smith, if he were to fall asleep and they were to find him in Lucas Oil Stadium a week from Sunday, he would be able to suit up and play in an NFL game. I know he's not eligible to do so, but his talent level is that. I mean, this is an NFL receiver right now, right?
Yeah, no, he's really great. And again, the Indiana receivers are amazing. So I think we're splitting hairs on this whole thing, Jake. And I'm fascinated to see. I don't know if people have really talked about it much, but D'Angelo Pons was Jeremiah Smith's high school teammate. So. D'Angelo Pons has covered Jeremiah Smith
and is also a fabulous player for Indiana, right? I mean, he and Aiden Fisher have been cornerstones for them.
Incredible. So, will he have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder to go one-on-one with him? I don't know. I mean, it's certainly an interesting storyline that, again, I haven't seen people talk about it a ton. So I think we're splitting hairs. Again, I think Ohio State's defense is as good as any I've seen. But Indiana's got a national championship level defense in a year. And then I think Indiana's offense has shown us that to be a little bit better. so far this year than Ohio State's offense, but Ohio State may have the best individual player, or does, I think, have the best individual player in the game. I think it's really close. Like, there's a reason they're ranked 1 and 2 in the country. These are, in my opinion, the two best teams.
Dave, it feels to me, Dave Revsine of the Big Ten Network is my guest here on the Jabba House Peel and Pour guest line. It feels to me like the only difference in 2025 between these two teams is the legacy. You just – and listen, I went to Indiana, right? I grew up – I watched Anthony Thompson. I watched Steve Bradley. I watched Babe Laufenberg. I watched Sam Weich's teams, all of it, right? But and having said that, it's still – there's like one little tenth of me that still is incredulous over the fact that Indiana is the number 2 team in the country and Ohio State feels like this behemoth, right? But yet they are kind of mirrors of one another, are they not?
They are. I mean, look, it's hard to ignore 30 consecutive wins, right? I mean,
right.
So that part of it, I mean, I get why you would think that way as an Indiana fan. I mean, we're talking about, this is the longest win streak that any program has had over any other program in the history of the Big Ten. So I think as an Indiana fan, you are conditioned to think that no matter how good you are, when you go up against Ohio State, it's just not going to work out. And last year, I think, kind of maybe reaffirmed that. What's interesting to me was kind of the notion that Indiana said that they used what happened last year as a tool to understand where they needed to get. And that Cignetti really, he's kind of from the get-go. I don't think he ever, like, he hasn't ducked away from, after the Ohio State game and after the Notre Dame game last year, saying, we got to get better on the line of scrimmage. We were beaten on the line of scrimmage. They were just better. Both those teams were just better than us there. And I think they clearly are better on the offensive line, but this will be a really good test. I mean, we'll see. But again, like, kind of to your original question, like, I just think it's hard if you haven't done it. I think it's hard for a fan not to look at it and say, well, we just never beat those guys. And no matter how good we are, they're always better than us. I thought, like Aiden Fisher, put it really well this week, where he said, hey, we're 12-0 for a reason. And, we look at it as two great teams going head to head. And I think that has to be the mentality. And if anyone can kind of I don't think the players have that same mentality that the fans have. I really don't. Like, my sense is that Indiana looks at themselves. They say, last year we thought we were really good. We went up against them. We realized we had some things we need to work on. And now we've worked on them. And now we're going to see how we match up. But we have every belief that we're going to win.
Dave, Dave Revsine is my guest. When you've been around Curt Cignetti, you guys have done, obviously, preseason interviews and profiles and, a number of different aspects of it. And you mentioned last year, there was, and I get it. I mean, Curt Cignetti had to have, and it's one of the most remarkable stories in sports, the way he turned around Indiana, and he had to have that exuding confidence that Curt Cignetti has, and it has worked, right? But he caught some heat after the Ohio State and Notre Dame games, just in terms of the bravado going into the game and then the coaching in-game, et cetera. Have you seen any difference whatsoever in Curt Cignetti from last year to this year?
I mean, I think there's a little less bravado than there was last year. I happen to like, look, I was sitting next to him when he came down, came up the day of his press conference and sat there and told Jerry and Nicole and me, we're going to be back here next year. And I was so flabbergasted. We hadn't seen the press conference. So because we were working all day. So
right.
I really didn't know what this guy was like. I still say I asked literally the worst follow-up question I've ever asked in my career, where he said, we're going to be back here next year. And like Nicole and Jerry looked at me and I'm like, you want to go on record with that? And he's like, yeah, I just did.
I'm on TV, yeah, right. Uh-huh.
And I'm like, I was so flabbergasted, Jake. I'm like, who's
totally. And in Indiana too, right? You know what I mean? I get it.
And look, I've been friends with Jerry for 20 years, right? I mean, because this is our 19th season of the Big Ten Network, 18th year. And then we worked together for 2 years at ESPN before that, as you know. And so I don't have the utmost respect for Jerry, and I mean, like, he took over Indiana. I think he had 55 players.
You're speaking,
on
by the way, of
scholarship.
Jerry DiNardo, for those not familiar,
Yeah,
former
right,
Indiana
right.
coach.
So when Jerry took over Indiana, right, he's got, I think, 55 players on scholarship. He'd know the exact number. I think he went through like I think he says it's like 3 athletic directors, 4 presidents, and 6 mission statements or something. I mean, it was a disaster, right? Like the place was just disorganized. They weren't ready to win. And I think the world of him, and I think in different circumstances, he could have been a really successful coach there. And so, like, you're sitting next to a guy who has walked in your shoes, and I don't even know if Sig knew that, but like, I was almost, this sounds so weird, I was almost protective of Jerry in that moment. Like, dude, do you know how hard this job is?
Right.
Like,
No question. Yeah.
Like, you know what you're getting into. You're sitting next to someone who's lived it, right? And it's crazy to think, I say, hey, horseshoes and hand grenades. Like, he was wrong, man. He was off by a year. But it's crazy to think that he basically got it right. Like, in that moment, I thought to myself, this has no idea how hard this job is. And I'm not saying you can't do it. Look, Tom Allen had him in the top 10. Like, Tom Allen had 2 pretty good years there. And then it just kind of fell apart. So I certainly I don't think any job's impossible. I think you need good administrative support, good alignment. They certainly had that. In speaking with Scott Dolson, kind of subsequent to the hire, I think I understood the logic of it. But I never in a million years would have thought that this was going to end up where it is as quickly as it's ended up there. And so, yeah, that bravado and all that caught me off guard. I've kind of gone down this whole path here, back to your original question of how he's handled it. I think he's handled it a little differently this year, but I love that about Signetti. Like, I love that he has a process that he believes in, that has proven to work over time, and he doesn't care where he's doing it. Like, as long as he has the proper support administratively, he believes that he can get it done. And the proof's in the pudding. He has gotten it done.
Dave, I think
I'll handle it this year. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think the thing
yeah.
that's so impressive about him, and you tell me if you've kind of observed the same type thing, you could take the third string long snapper on the Indiana football roster, and Curt Cignetti would tell you what size shoe the guy wears and what way he prefers to tie them. Like, he just seems to know his personnel and how they respond to every situation from top to bottom, as well as anybody I've seen in coaching.
I would agree. Look, I think he is a football junkie. And so I think that goes to a lot of different levels. I think part of it is the psychological aspect and understanding his team and having kind of a process that he believes in, that he has kind of gone through trial and error with, that he's learned from people, that he's adapted. I think people forget, everyone has the Saban connection, but his dad was an incredible coach, a Hall of Fame coach. And so he's been around him, and his brother is a good coach. And so, like, there's a lot, like, coaching is just in his blood. But I'll tell you a story, Jake, that really, like, to me is indicative of who Curt Cignetti is. And this is something that goes back to Tom Allen. Like, when we go and do our camp visit at Indiana every year, we go up into the coach's office before the practice that day. And Jeff Kager's the great SID there, who I'm sure you know.
Yep.
Like, they order bagels and we have coffee and we sit and talk to the coach. And we did it with Tom and we've done it with Sig here these last 2 years. And both times we've gone in with Sig, we have interrupted him watching film. And both years it has interestingly been, well, like, what are you watching? Well, I have cut-ups of high red zone from across the country, and I'm watching high red zone clips. And it's just really interesting to me. Like, that's what he does. Like, that's who he is. And he's not watching his team. He's watching, like, whatever, Arizona, plays from the 23-yard line, right? Or 18-yard line or whatever it is, right? High red zone, I guess. So, and it's just like, wow, okay. Like, it was one thing when he went in the first year, and then the second year is like, yeah, he's doing the exact same thing. Like, he can't get enough football. And whether it's, to your point, his team and his players, or whether it's just the game in general, like he's always looking for something different. He's always looking for the edge. And I think that's part of what makes him great. Like he lives, eats, breathes this stuff. And maybe other coaches are the same way. You know, I'm not suggesting that he watches more than anyone else or breathes it, eats it, drinks it more than anyone else. I'm just saying, like, there's just something about it that I think he finds endlessly fascinating.
Dave,
and it's helped a lot.
I think there are a lot of coaches that view film. I think Curt Cignetti watches film. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? I think he just, from what I'm told as well, it's the nuance of discovering things in it that go past most people. Let me ask you this: what bagel are you getting? Like when Jeff Cake orders the bagels and he's like, "Okay, Revsine, Big Ten Network, which one are you going with? You blueberry bagel, everything bagel, sesame bagel? What are you going with?"
Yeah, more like sesame or everything. Blueberry bagel's kind of like a fake bagel. I mean, that's not a real.
Okay. Bagel Fair up in 86th Street, though, they got a blueberry bagel with a slab of cream cheese. That is heaven, buddy, let me tell you. That's like watching the White Sox in late October. Total heaven. You don't see it very often, but it's still heaven. Okay, Dave, last thing. Is the Heisman Trophy on the line Saturday? Is the Heisman going to go to one of these two quarterbacks, and is it going to be the quarterback that statistically outperforms the other?
That is my feeling. I'm a Heisman voter. I consider it my obligation, and I try to do this kind of down the stretch. I'm in the process of doing this, of watching everyone who is in the Heisman Trophy contention play, and I DVR games, watch them back, and so I have a pretty good sense from kind of where I sit as to how it's going to play out, with my vote. And I would say this game will go a long, long way toward determining how my vote goes. I think there's some other players who are really worthy. And Jeremiah Love's unbelievable. I think Diego Pavi is really good. I kind of come around on him. But I think, from where I sit, these two have been pretty.
And how does it work? Do you literally just get a ballot and you write down, say, your top 5 or your top 3? I mean, obviously they come up with the finalists then, right? And they send it to you, or how does it all work?
No, it's just your top 3. You can vote for anyone in the country.
Okay.
It's electronic. They did change it this year, which is interesting. There used to be a 10-day voting window, which would have already begun. And those of us who are, who take it really seriously, I mean, I take the responsibility very, very seriously.
Which is appreciated.
Who in the world would vote now?
Right.
Like, you have to wait until championship weekend to see every data point for every player. So they changed it this year. You cannot vote. I think it's open Sunday and Monday. It's basically open for like 48 hours. So you cannot vote before the championship weekend, which I think is a really positive step, because you shouldn't. I mean, if you're going to do this, what I would perceive to be the right way, you need to wait until you've been able to watch every player at every possible situation.
Dave and the Big Ten Network crew will all be in Indianapolis with coverage beginning, you said Friday, everything gets underway, right? And then basically wall-to-wall Friday and Saturday, including in the intermission of basketball games and all of it to cover Indiana and Ohio State, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You got it.
Dave, I appreciate it. Safe travels down here by all means, and we look forward to all of the coverage on the Big Ten Network with Indiana and Ohio State. But I certainly appreciate the time. I know you're busy.
As always, my friend. See you soon.
Appreciate it. Dave Revsine joining us on the Java House Peel and Pour guest line. I have an unpopular opinion about this game. And, Eddie, I'll let you be judge and jury. And we have FanFest tickets to give away. We going to give those away?
Yes.
All right. We will do it. We'll let Eddie come up with the fashion in which we will do it. Your chance to see Dave and the filming and everything else that takes place at the Big Ten Fan Fest. We'll do that coming up 1 o'clock hour as well. The Big Ten Fan Fest is, and by the way, thank you to Dave Revsine for joining us on the show. I know he is super busy, and Dave is just a good dude. Boy, hard to believe. There was one year for the Big Ten Fan Fest. It was so much fun. The Big Ten hired, when I was doing the radio show with Derek Schultz, they and Derek and Dave have known each other a very long time. That's how I kind of got to know Dave Revsine. And the Big Ten, or like one of the groups here in town, the Sports Corps, one of them, for the Big Ten Fan Fest, came to Derek and I and asked if they could hire us for the day. Sure. Yeah, what do you need? Well, we need you guys to do, different things, different involvement. This was years ago. It was like the second or third year of the Big Ten championship games. So we show up at Big Ten Fan Fest, and they said, we need you here from 12 to 5 on the Saturday leading up to the championship game. No problem. So we show up, and they said, okay, so which one's Query and which one's Schultz? And I said, well, I'm Query, and this is Derek. And they said, okay, great. And they put me on a stage with Ron Dane and Charles Woodson and Eddie George. And I was doing Q&As with them, interviewing the Heisman winners, every half hour. It was come up and see, hear Ron Dane or, whoever it was, different stars of the Big Ten schools from over the years. And then they had Derek in a side room making announcements about people who lost their car keys.
Really?
Literally. It's I'm interviewing Ron Dane on this stage with 200 people, and then all of a sudden I hear attention, please. Attention. If you have lost keys for a Chevrolet car with Minnesota key holder, we have them over here at such and such. And then I'd wait for Derek to finish, and then I'd go on and do my Q&A. But the Big Ten Fan Fest is super fun. I don't know if Derek's doing those announcements this year, but it is very cool, and we have tickets to give away for it. We will do that coming up in just a couple of minutes. And in addition to that, Eddie is going to judge and jury and be the people's court on an opinion I have on the Big Ten title game. I'm fully convinced that it's Mr. Obvious, but at the same time, everybody seems to disagree with me. So we'll let Eddie decide whether I'm right or wrong next. more regularity than I care to admit, okay, Eddie? Premonition, you hear it right there from Ricky. Who is this?
Ricky Martin.
Ricky Martin, thank you. It's been like 25 years since I've heard the song. So I always have this premonition. I always have this clarity of thought where I think to myself, okay, I would mention this on the radio, but it is so incredibly obvious that it would be ridiculous for me to talk about it because it would be like me going on the air and saying, hey, breaking news, Indianapolis is the capital of Indiana. Well, everybody knows that, right? There's no point in me doing that. So, well, thank you. This just in, Corridor no longer the state capital. It's now Indianapolis, by the way, where you're living. So, with that, Eddie, I will have something that comes to my mind, and I think to myself, it is very obvious.
Uh-huh.
Then I'll mention it to a couple of people, and they will say, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You're the only person that thinks that. And one of the difficulties of my life is the fact that sometimes something that is so incredibly obvious to me apparently is the opposite to the rest of the civilized world. For example, here is the opinion that I'm going to guess in our People's Court version here, as you are Judge Wapner and Doug Llewellyn both, that you are going to rule against me in this, okay?
Okay.
But hear me out. I'm worried this is my unpopular opinion. As I'm driving last night to go to the Pacer game, I start to see, and you can tell this with the JW Marriott when they get the crews up there that are putting up the big stickers and everything else, right? And then I'm driving down today, and I see on the JW Marriott, there is a huge, like 4 to 6 story high sticker, whatever you want to call it, that says Never Daunted, and it's the Indiana football helmet.
Okay.
Indiana's playing in the Big Ten championship game on Saturday evening at Lucas Oil Stadium in the shadows of the JW Marriott.
Mm-hmm.
The JW Marriott has long now been the epicenter, if you will, of hospitality and of promotion and celebration of event in Indianapolis. When the Indy 500 is here and running, obviously it's here every year, the Borg Warner Trophy goes up. When the NCAA Final Four is here, they put the entire bracket up on the JW Marriott. When any event comes to town, it is promoted on the JW Marriott. Now, here is my unpopular opinion for you, Eddie Garrison, and my question. What fundamentally is the problem with a huge poster of Indiana football on the JW Marriott right now?
I don't know. What is it? You tell me.
Okay. I hate Ohio State. I hate them. Right?
Just like everyone outside of Ohio.
Correct. There is nothing more boorish and obnoxious than the Ohio State fan base. I hate them. I love that they come here and spend all their money, and I think they're good people because the rest of the year I actually am akin to them because I'm a Reds fan, and so too are a lot of them. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to the way that they choose their football team, they all err. Okay? Now, having said that, the Big Ten championship game, Indianapolis has been selected as the host city of the Big Ten championship game. As the host city of the Big Ten championship game, that means that if you're going to put something up on the JW Marriott, it needs to be celebration and champion of the event itself, not with a bias towards one team. And while I understand that Indiana is the athletic program that is indigenous to the state in which the JW Marriott sits, the reality is that putting that up on the JW Marriott, where, mind you, probably the majority of people staying there this weekend are fans of, wait for it, Ohio State. But nonetheless, it is the responsibility of whether it be the sports court, unless that was paid for by Indiana University, there needs to be an objectivity and not a bias shown, even though we all assume that most people in Indianapolis, and for that matter, the civilized world, are rooting for Indiana to beat Ohio State. While we all assume that, it is the responsibility of the promotion of the event to do so to celebrate the fact that the Big Ten championship game is being housed in Indianapolis and not to show favoritism towards one team or the other. And I think it's actually somewhat irresponsible to show a favoritism towards one team. Now, that may be that the graphic's incomplete and they have yet to put the Ohio State helmet up and then they're going to put a Big Ten trophy in the middle of it. I don't know. But I think they should celebrate and champion the fact that we are hosting the event, and that as the epicenter of hospitality, the JW Marriott should show a welcome of all to the championship event.
I guess it all depends, Jake, on who's buying the space. Like, is IU buying the space, or is it
like if IU's buying it, I get that. But in any other capacity, even if it's the JW, they should be showing it as an equal 50-50 of celebrating the fact that we are privileged as a city to welcome all for the Big Ten title.
Yeah.
Now, Scott Agness joins us on the Java House Peel and Pour guest line. Fieldhouse Files his coverage of the Pacers. We'll let Scott, who just had to sit through that entire soliloquy, opine and weigh in. Scott, am I right or wrong on this?
I think you guys are hitting it completely right there. As if it suggests to me that it's IU purchase. They've leaned into this never daunted theme over the last couple of years, and so if they sought it out and commissioned it, no big deal with that. But certainly if it's something put on by the city or anything like that, I don't think they would have done that. They would have done something neutral.
Okay, that's my thought, because now it's different. When the Pacers were in the NBA Finals, they put up the Pacers graphic, but that's different because the Pacers, the NBA Finals were only in Indianapolis because of the Pacers. It was not selected. So in other words, if Indianapolis was the Super Bowl host city and the Colts happened to be in it, I still would anticipate that it would have the Lombardi on it and then the Colts helmet and the NFC helmet both on there. You see what I'm saying?
I guess it depends who's the highest bidder, right, with that space, because we've seen advertisements in terms of Gatorade putting Caitlin Clark up there,
correct,
or when it was Indy's All-Star game, they put Tyrese Halliburton up there, but it was advertising how everyone could get involved with All-Star
Weekend.
Correct.
That like when Caitlin Clark during the All-Star Weekend for the WNBA, Nike put her up there, but it said, "From downtown in my hometown, like welcome all." You know what I mean? It was like she was the ambassador and he was the ambassador, welcoming everyone regardless of allegiance.
I think the best example of this would be Taylor Swift. I can't believe Taylor commissioned a big portrait of her on the side of the JW, right? That had to be presumably downtown Indy or Visit Indy to welcome all the Indy fans. And so that was a neutral contributor.
Yeah,
but,
I think that when you have Indianapolis should push its chest out about the fact that it has been selected for years now as the host city, regardless of who the opponent is. It just happens to be fantastic that it's Indiana University. But maybe you're right. I mean, if IU bought it themselves, that's different. And if that's the case, then no issue, no problem. All right, Scott, let's get to last night at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, the Pacers in Cleveland. I saw a slow and late arriving crowd, and I thought to myself, maybe this crowd is not here because people have accepted the fact that the Pacers this year are on the struggle bus. But obviously it was weather impacted because the crowd then was pretty good. I think people have figured out and are understanding and patient to the fact of they're struggling because everyone is hurt, right? But there are some players that you look at, Scott, and you say, okay, this is going to be a net positive in the long run because this player's X and Y are getting significant minutes that are then going to help them acclimate once the Pacers are back full throttle. And then other guys, I call them empty calorie guys. There are some guys that are empty calorie guys. You just need calories, and they're not providing you anything, but you just need them because you're hungry, right? So, that said, give me a player or two so far this year that you look at and you say they're taking advantage of showing what they can do, and they're going to be part of a rotation once everybody's healthy.
Yeah, I would say as a whole, the first guy that jumps out to me was Jay Huff as a reserve. I don't know if he's your starter full-time, but I think he's really now settled in, Jake, over the last 3 weeks or so and showed exactly how productive he can be in the minutes that he's given. I mean, his block shot ability has been as good or better than advertised. So he's the number one guy, I think, of making a mark because I bet not one Pacer fan had heard of him before he was acquired here. The trouble is the list isn't very long right now, Jake. We've had moments we've seen Isaiah Jackson. There's been moments for Jarris Walker. And Benedict Mathurin, I would say, as the whole, he's been very good. Obviously, last night, a little bit of an off night, just 11 points, 3 of 9, was not a big factor in this. But overall, I mean, Mathurin's been able to be counted on for about 20 points per game and continues to grow within his game, still on his rookie deal. So I would also put him in that conversation.
What is the contractual status? Because I think they got a hardship last year because he was out. Where do things stand contractually with Isaiah Jackson?
Isaiah Jackson just came off his rookie deal last year. It was the same situation, we should note, as Benedict Mathurin. They did not reach an agreement in the fall before the season, and so he went into a contract year into the detriment in Isaiah Jackson's standpoint. He suffered that a torn Achilles, which obviously negatively impacts your value just because it's the injury that it is. So the Pacers re-signed him this past offseason, a 3-year deal worth $21 million.
Okay, I couldn't remember. So he is in for 3 years because, Scott, I'll be honest, and I like Isaiah Jackson a great deal, but I have wanted to see more than I have seen thus far. Am I too critical considering the injury?
I would just say a little bit. No, I think he's obvious. He's absolutely left us all wanting for more out there. But I also didn't expect for him to be thrown into the starting lineup immediately or be asked to play 25 minutes in some circumstances. And, last night I think was their 5th game in 7 days, something like that. And so that's why, for example, you saw a veteran like TJ McConnell held out. According to Rick Carlisle post-game, he said it's no new injury. We just didn't feel like with all these games that he looked sharp at the beginning of the game, so we cut him off for the rest of the game. Well, now I'm factoring that, okay, Isaiah Jackson coming off the worst injury all of us really agree that you can have. Okay, we got to be a little bit delicate with it, but also he's a professional and paid at this level, so we should expect more. There's definitely a lot to be desired still.
Scott Agness is our guest, Java House Peel and Pour guest line, where you hear him, Fieldhouse Files, where you can read his work and coverage. Scott, let's go back to Jay Huff. I said earlier, and I want your thought on this. Do you see Jay Huff as somebody that is still auditioning to be a long-term starter for the Pacers, or is Jay Huff a guy that is realistically an 18 to 21-minute off-bench solid piece once everybody's there guy?
Sad part is I think it's both. Realistically, it's the latter. It's play that 18 minutes per game off the bench, be an energy guy. He's really showed some consistency from beyond the arc. He plays in that respect in his blocking like Miles Turner. So for fans, it's probably a comfort blanket. It's familiar in what they get from a center, whereas Isaiah Jackson, very different from that respect. But right now, they don't, in my opinion, have a starting caliber center. No one playing at that level. Therefore, I think they're all starting for that or trying for that long-term gig for this season.
Yeah, the thing about Jay Huff, I agree with you, and he has really, in the last, week or two, I think, become more active around the rim. He just seems more comfortable in the flow of what they want. But you tell me this, Scott, do you feel that he has the same high post passing and facilitating ability that, and I hate to compare everything to Miles Turner, but that's what you're replacing, right? Does he have the same facilitating nature that Miles Turner had?
I'm not sure they asked Miles to do a lot of that facilitating. There was certainly some pick and pops a lot where he was coming up to set the screen.
But I think Turner would come up at the beginning of a possession. Turner would, obviously a lot of times he was coming down. He was the last one down because he was starting a break off of a block or whatever else. But a lot of times he would flash up, he'd get the ball in the high post, and then they would kind of start that weave, if you will, and he was usually the first guy that would kind of pop it out to one of those two, and then he flashes back down, right?
He had a lot of movement from the top of the arc. He would get it first, then switch it to the other side, and then go move off the ball. You're right in that aspect.
So do you feel that Huff can be that kind of a guy?
I do, yeah. I think so. He's agile. I think you're right. He's gotten not only a lot more comfortable and confident in the know-how of this system and what is being asked of him from Rick Carlisle, but I also think he's gotten his conditioning, and that was such a big thing early on. And without that, you're always playing catch-up and huffing and puffing out there. And so now he's at the point where, I think you can flow or facilitate, if you will, because right now they don't have that dominant guard or dominant guy that they are playing through. They need to play through Siakam as much as possible. But, I think Jay Huff can be utilized in many of the similar ways.
I saw last night, Scott. Were you down at the game last night by chance?
Still no.
Okay. There was a late in the game, mid-fourth quarter, I think, and I don't know if the broadcast caught this or not. Mathurin missed a block out, and Carlisle called a timeout. I can't remember if he called the timeout because of the missed block out, or if it just so happened there was like an out of ball, or maybe Cleveland called the timeout. But Rick Carlisle got down almost like on a stool across from Benedict Mathurin to get in his grill basically about the missed block out, and kind of gave the riot act to the entire roster sitting there for almost the totality of the timeout. And everybody responded fine. He didn't pull anybody out. They went back out. It wasn't like some ugly situation, but it was a unique situation. I don't know that I've seen Rick Carlisle get that agitated and vociferous during a timeout during the course of a game. Am I missing something, or is that out of character?
No, I think that's on brand. How many times do we see him call those quick timeouts, like start of the second quarter?
He does do that, but then he usually
it's short bursts, I will say.
And he kind of lets the assistants then handle it, right? Like for him, what I'm saying is usually he'll call the timeout, and then he goes up high, and like Jenny will come out, and they'll talk for a second, and Lloyd Pierce or somebody will go and kind of handle things, and then he kind of comes down and goes over what needs to be done. For him to call it specifically to undress everybody, he wasn't wrong, and I applaud it, but to me, that jumped out at me.
Yeah, I think normally what he'll do, mostly for like an individual blowing a coverage or something, he'll erupt on them briefly, make the point, and then go right into the timeout, like you said. And everybody, these guys are smart enough. They know exactly where they just messed up and why that timeout was called. And so it kind of goes without saying there. But, yeah, you're seeing a lot of that coaching, a lot of that emotion, I think, come out from all of them, because there is no margin for error right now for this team.
Do you think Pascal Siakam, that game winner that he hit, Scott, to see that bench erupt and, basically cross the midcourt stripe with him and everyone around him, that to me looked like a roster that was understanding of the toll that things were taking on Pascal Siakam, because he's a guy that's used to winning, and now he's like the lone soldier out there at no fault of anybody's because of the attrition. Do you think that emotionally it is wearing on Pascal Siakam?
I think absolutely. How could it not? And I think it's weighing on all of them, but no one more than him, given how much of a burden he's had to shoulder, especially as is the running mate with Andrew Nembhard. Missed a lot of time with injury, and so he was the one guy you could count on for about 25 minutes per game. Even Mathurin missed time with that turf toe. He was the one stable point that this team had, and for him to contribute like he did, to play the big minutes like he was playing like 36 minutes per game. Back when more guys were out. And so, yeah, I think you just saw that pent-up frustration and just the team losing be like, look, I finally got some luck. We finally got a win. And it boiled over to the point where you could see how they talk about his leadership being a big deal. I thought you could see that here, where they all just wanted to celebrate him in so many different ways. I mean, pouring water on his head and taking his headband and those things you don't do for a guy you don't like. They love Pascal and the levels in which he's contributing to this team on and off the court.
Scott, what's the latest on Fieldhouse Files and what you're working on?
Yeah, Lloyd Pierce is hosting a coat drive this afternoon at 3:30 there at Horizon House. So looking back at last year and looking ahead, and hopefully big contributions to that.
Scott, did you go to the Noblesville Boom game on Saturday to watch them take on the Wisconsin Herd?
I did, and I'm actually yeah, I did. I saw them get the win over the Herd, and more to that, I had a long post-game conversation with Victor Oladipo. I was the only one there covering it and had an opportunity to catch up with him, and he expanded on so many different ways that he has changed, and his simple message to Pacers fans is, judge me for who I am now, not what I was. I've changed a ton since then. He expressed some remorse for a lot of different things, and now he's just not ready to call basketball quits just yet, and so that's why he's staying after it.
Do you believe that in that conversation, and that's interesting, Scott, that Oladipo would say that he was at the game the night before, right? I mean, he was there kind of incognito. Actually, I looked over and I'm like, is that Oladipo over there? But do you think that, in fact, he does regret just kind of the way things were handled and the way that he left here?
I do. I think how he handled the situation as a whole.
And I can't remember what was the exact situation. Pardon my ignorance in asking that. I just know that he was injured, and then did he ask for a trade? Is that what it was?
It was one of those writings on the wall here that I'm not kind of happy here, and so you should kind of move me. and eventually he made it clear he wanted to get to Miami, and so they dealt him in that deal, if I remember correctly, to Houston, which brought back Karis LeVert.
That's right.
In a 4-team trade. And the biggest issue we found, it was more so the lead up and how everything was handled while he was still here, mostly since his injury. And he chose the doctor and went to Miami and rehabbed away from the team.
And he didn't come
and
back.
Guess
You
what?
remember that?
What's that?
During the playoffs, they played Boston in the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken, and he missed. He missed the first game, like missed his flight and didn't make it back for the first game.
There was weather delays on the tarmac, and his private jet couldn't get out in time.
Yeah, that ain't good.
And then that delayed him, if I remember right, to a shoot-around. And so he finally saw the guys and met up shortly, a couple hours before the game, and they just wanted to focus on the game. They just trying to get a win and prevent a sweep here. And so that was a little messy. But the overriding theme, I think, in all this is the doctor didn't do the surgery correct, Jake, and then that quad tendon ruptured again, and then he changed agents 2 or 3 different times. To me, it fundamentally comes down to what he wants, who he trusts, in the circle of trust that he allows around or within him, and that was bad for him down the stretch and has led them down this path where he's had these injuries and now is on the outside looking in for an NBA contract. But I think he'll make it back. It's just he's got to embrace this role of being that veteran like a James Johnson who can contribute at times, but can he lead in other ways and find other ways to contribute on a veteran minimum?
Has he gained weight? He looked bigger. He looked thicker to me. I'm not saying fat, but maybe it's muscle, but he looked bigger to me.
Maybe a little. I didn't notice anything substantial in that level.
Scott Agness, Fieldhouse Files, Java House, Peel and Pour, guest line. And you can read all about Oladipo and the rest of it on the website. Scott, appreciate the time as always.
Of course. Thanks, guys.
Scott Agness joining us. All right, Eddie, did we give away the Big Ten Fan Fest tickets?
We did not.
Okay, in what fashion would you like to do so?
So we will do this via the text line. I have a trivia question on the ready.
Oh, do you?
I do.
So this is going to go to the first person to correctly answer your trivia question by texting their guess at 239-1070, correct?
Yes.
These are tickets to the Big Ten Fan Fest. We later have Motley Crue to give away as well. Your trivia question for the Big Ten Fan Fest tickets, this is your opportunity, again, to enjoy at the Convention Center all of the festivities. The Big Ten Network broadcasting live. There will be bands there. There are trophies. There's history. There's videos. It's awesome. It's a very cool way to get in the celebratory mood of the Big Ten Championship game being in Indianapolis. Eddie, your trivia question that people need to answer at 239-1070 via text is?
Okay, so since 2011, there have been obviously quarterbacks to win the award, but from 2011 to 2016, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 6 winners were all quarterbacks. Since then,
Winners of?
The Big Ten Tournament Football Championship MVP.
Gotcha, okay.
And since then, there have been just 2 that started in 2017. Name the last quarterback to win the MVP in the Big Ten Football Championship game.
The last Big Ten Championship game, most valuable player to have been a quarterback.
Yep.
That's the question?
Yep.
239-1070 is the telephone number. If I'm not mistaken, it's a guy that actually
No hints yet.
rubbed people the wrong way when he was awarded it. I could be wrong. We'll get you the answer and let you know who gets tickets next. That was a humdinger of a question that Eddie Garrison came up with. As a matter of fact, it stumped the namesake of the program because I guessed. And your question again, Eddie, if you could please repeat the question.
So in, I think it was 6 of the first 7 years, I'd have to recount, but if not, at least 5 of the first 6 years of the Big Ten football championship, the MVP was won by a quarterback. However, it has been 6 years since the last quarterback has won the MVP.
The question is, who was the last quarterback to be named Big Ten Championship Game Most Valuable Player?
Yes.
And my immediate guess was, and it was the guy that kind of caught some heat because when he was named the MVP and he went up and took the trophy from Archie Griffin, he swiped it away like he was stealing something from him. And I guessed Connor Cook of Michigan State. And you are telling me that that was not correct, right?
That is incorrect. Fun fact, though, he is the only guy that has won the MVP more than once.
Did he play in the league?
Maybe briefly.
The correct answer and the song that we came back with should tell you. Do we have a winner, Eddie?
Yes.
That winner is?
Jackson Miles. He got it correct.
Justin Fields of Ohio State.
Got a lot of C.J. Strouds, and fun fact, C.J. Stroud never won the Big Ten championship.
Justin Fields was probably the quarterback the last time Ohio State was in it, was he not?
Ohio State was last in the Big Ten championship in 2020.
What year was Fields?
2019.
Gosh, was it that long ago?
Trey
Okay.
Sermon was your MVP in 2020.
Oh, future Colt. And now former Colt.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of college football and the Indiana logo on the JW Marriott, I think more people, I actually appreciate it. People seem to agree with me on this. Somebody said, how do you know that the logoing's not done? That's what I said. It's entirely possible that Ohio State goes up there as well. But Alec, your only friend, pointed out it had to have been paid for by Indiana because when Purdue was in the Big Ten title game, they did not put Purdue up. There was nothing up for Purdue, right?
I don't. That's probably good. That's a good point.
When they played Michigan, or they were going to put a Purdue sign up on the JW, and Michigan stole it. Right? Now, here is another unpopular college football opinion.
We also have Motley Crue tickets to give away later in the show as well.
I don't understand, and I know that this is not a local story per se, but it is a big story in college football. And, you know, there are smaller stories. For example, Purdue today, one of the items in the news regarding Purdue, Stu Smith from Cathedral, announcing that he will be entering the transfer portal and leaving the Purdue football program with 2 years of eligibility left. And that's going to be the first of many probably at Purdue and anywhere. I mean, this is just the reality of all of it, right? Of football in 2025. Here is one thing that is a big storyline in college football. The Lane Kiffin saga. And I know nobody in Indianapolis, for the most part, cares about Lane Kiffin in terms of the specifics of LSU versus Ole Miss. I've never understood why Lane Kiffin is this. I mean, this guy just fails upward. It's unbelievable to me. Is he a good coach? Sure. But Lane Kiffin, to me, is the red properties in Monopoly. You got to go Boardwalk Park Place, man. At the very least, you need one of the, like North Carolina Avenue or one of those green properties. The red ones are fine. I think it's like Indiana and Illinois or something like that are the names of the properties. They're fine.
Indiana, Illinois, and Kentucky.
Is Kentucky a red one? Look at you. What are the orange?
Orange? That would be New York, Tennessee, and St. John's. No.
I had no idea you had this skill.
Is it St. John's?
Okay, what are the greens? North Carolina, what else?
Pennsylvania and Pacific.
What are the light blues?
The light blues, you're looking at
is that Baltic and Mediterranean?
Baltic is the brown and Mediterranean also the brown. It's Oriental, Connecticut. I forget the third one though.
Okay, how about this? The yellows. There's
Marvin
a
Gardens,
Vermont,
Atlantic, and Vermont.
Okay. Look at Eddie. You play
I played Monopoly a lot when I was a kid growing up.
Apparently. I had no idea you had this skill. What other board games of which were you a whiz?
Yahtzee.
Okay.
Yeah, Monopoly was the big one. Yahtzee, Sorry, Trouble.
Sorry's a fun one. Now,
Chutes and Ladders.
with Lane Kiffin, he's getting Monopoly money. I understand why he left. This is what I don't understand. I've come around on this. People that are upset at Lane Kiffin for leaving, or any coach, people that think, or any player, that I have been, and maybe I'm jaded, I've been laid off. I've been part of corporate layoffs. I have to think about this. 4 times in my career. 4. Is that right? 3 or 4. And you know what? Each time that I was part of a corporate layoff, or my contract wasn't renewed, or whatever it might be, okay? Each time that happened, my place of employment, and I don't blame them, I left on goodwill in all of them, to be honest with you. I mean, I understand it. It's the business. I get it. I'm not asking that be taken into consideration and making me an easy layoff here. I'm just saying, I get it. But you know what never happened in those times? I never once had a place call me and say, we're undergoing a corporate restructure. What's a convenient time to lay you off? I got an email or a phone call that said, unfortunately, we're going through a corporate restructure and we're going to need you to bring in your playbook. Why do we get upset when coaches or players have an opportunity to move elsewhere and make a ton more money, and then we get mad at the timing in which they do it? Yeah, the timing sucks for Ole Miss. I get it. But if Ole Miss decided that the time was going to come where they were going to fire Lane Kiffin, were they going to ask him what was the most convenient time for him and his family? No. They come in and they go, you're gone. So while it wouldn't be my preference in terms of leaving a job, when a player or a coach has an opportunity to improve their livelihood and their income by going elsewhere, why do we get mad when they exercise that, as opposed to, like, Lane Kiffin tried to put in 2 weeks. He tried, and they said, no thanks. I get it. But why are we mad at him? I mean, he's an unlikable dude. He's a good-looking dude that, like, seems kind of cocky, and he seems to leave places all the time in the middle of the night. I get it. But you kind of know at this point what you're getting into. Ole Miss had to know when they gave the guy the gig. He left Tennessee in the middle of the night. He left, Florida Atlantic International, whichever Florida it was he was at, probably in the middle of the night. I mean, I get it's kind of his brand. You kind of know what you're getting into, right? Why do you think you're going to be different? And why do we – he made, $91 million is what LSU's giving him? LSU, who's paying 3 coaches now, Ed Ogeron. They're still playing Brian Kelly, and they're paying – then you know what? I mean, good for him, right? $91 million. I just have always been a little bit confused why people in this country, you hear all the time, hey, did you hear Brian moved? Oh, he did? Yeah, I saw it on Facebook. Brian's moving. Really? Yeah, his house up for sale. How come? Got a job in Tulsa. He got like a $20,000 raise. Good for Brian. That's awesome. Yeah, he's having guys over to drink beer and help him pack. Awesome. Let's go. Let's have a congratulations party for Brian. He got a new job. He's making $20,000 more.
Drink some Surfside.
But what's that?
Let's drink some Surfside.
That's right. Just 100 calories, no carbonation, easy to drink. And here's the thing. A guy gets $91 million and you're mad at him? Why do we care? I don't understand why LSU thought that he's going to be the answer. I mean, I don't like Brian Kelly, but you went from a guy that is just outwardly has a kind of a punchable face to a guy that outwardly has a punchable face. Okay, cool. Colts are making some news by those that might be trying to find their way to see if their key card works in the building. We'll explain what I'm talking about. We'll do it next. And Holder in about 18. What a jam. Eddie, without looking, can you tell me the band?
Wall of Voodoo?
I said without looking.
I'm not looking.
Can you name another hit from Wall of Voodoo?
Nope.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. Do you think Wall of Voodoo still tours?
I don't think so.
They're from California, I think, Wall of Voodoo. That song, I don't even think was a hit when it came out. It's just like one of those songs that became more popular, like well after the fact.
Well, they were only active from 77 to 89.
Mm-hmm. And what happened then? Somebody voodoo them? You ever been to Voodoo Donuts in Portland? Have you been to Portland, Eddie?
No.
If you go to Seattle, next time you go to Seattle and you get some of your gummies, go down to Portland. You'll enjoy. Have somebody else drive. The Voodoo Donuts. They've got a special donut. It's a little man. It's a little dude, and except for that, it's got a pretzel stick because it's like a voodoo doll that's been stuck.
They broke up because most of the people that were in the band wanted to pursue their own solo careers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. How'd that work out for them?
I don't know.
How many people were in Wall of Voodoo?
2 former members died in the early 2000s.
That's unfortunate.
Joe Nannini suffered a brain hemorrhage on December 4th of 2000, and Mark Moreland died of kidney and liver failure in March of 2002.
Man, how old were they?
I don't know.
Because I think that song is like 83, 81, 83, something like that. Mexican radio.
There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total members.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a big wall. The Colts yesterday, Shane Steichen was fairly non-committal when it came to, matter of fact, he kind of dodged the bullet when asked about Michael Badgley. And the kicking saga has been one for the Colts this year. Obviously, they had it taken care of. Really, this goes back to Matt Gay, because it is not often that a team makes a big splash or has their big offseason splash in terms of free agency signings be a kicker. But nonetheless, that's exactly what it was. They signed Matt Gay, and then obviously, and I think there was he was not healthy. But remember Chris Ballard having to essentially sit and defend Matt Gay on the regular. Like, look, the guy's a good kicker. He's a good kicker, but he was missing kicks. And notably, he was supposed to be one that shortened the field for the Colts because he could hit from 50 and beyond, and there just were consistency issues. Then this year, Spencer Schrader, he gets hurt in the Raider game. And now Michael Badgley's there. And if you can't hit regular, extra points on the regular, you got a problem. In addition to field goal inconsistency. And it sounded like Shane Steichen was kind of wanting to have his back when I think it was Kevin that asked him about it, and he basically said, and I'm paraphrasing, look, that's a Chris Ballard situation. I'll go, I love Badge, but I don't know what the kicker situation is going to be, but that's kind of up to Chris, is basically what he said. I believe, see if this name is correct. Blake Grupe, is that correct, from New Orleans? Most recently New Orleans?
Yep.
He likes to hang around bands. That's the only thing I know about him. But he is one of those that is trying out today. Apparently, according to Joel A. Erickson of the Indianapolis Star, he is going to be in the building today trying out. Now, this is not unusual.
He was with the Saints last season. He was 18 of 26, which is good for 69% if those are interested in the percentages. He was 3 of 6 of 50-plus.
Now,
for his career, he's 15 of 23.
We're going to play our
50+.
favorite game, Eddie. Guess the college.
86 of 88.
Guess the college is what we're going to play here, okay?
I know the answer.
Okay, let me ask you this. Is it a Power 5 school?
Yes.
Is it a school that has won a national championship in football to your understanding in their history?
Yes, I think.
Is it a school that is in contention for the national championship this year?
They're on the fringe. Yes, definitely this team has won a national championship.
They're on the fringe this year?
They are on the fringe.
Are they in the playoff as of right now?
I would have to look at the bracket.
I'll go with Miami.
That is not correct.
Alabama.
Not correct.
Oklahoma.
Not correct.
This is going well.
I may be wrong on the championship part of it. I'm almost certain this. Yeah, they have. Yes, I'm an idiot.
And what year did they win the national championship?
Well, they've won it 25 times.
Notre Dame.
Yes.
I should have known that. How did I not know that? There are people yelling at the radio, dude, how do you not remember that he played for Notre Dame?
I don't know why I was so hesitant on yes and no on the whole championship thing.
They're in. They're, what, 8 seed right now, 9?
I don't know because of the whole
I get it. But that's changed now, right? It used to last year the ruling was that Notre Dame simply could not be a top 4 seed because that was the agreement by them not joining a conference.
So
that now is not applicable, correct?
They are the 9 seed
9.
as of last week. Yes.
Yeah, they're in.
9.
They're in. I mean, they're in because they can't who below them could push their way in.
I'd have to double check on this.
I think they're in. I think Notre Dame is a top 5 team in college football. I think if you were to survey,
okay, Texas.
Is Texas done though?
Texas is done. They are not in the SEC championship game.
So and where is Texas right now?
As of last week, Texas was number 14.
Yeah, so Texas can't improve themselves.
Well, they just won against who was A&M.
You're saying that they just beat A&M, right?
Yeah, they just beat
So you're
A&M.
saying they were 14 before beating A&M.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's say that, and I don't think it should, but let's say that wedges Texas in. Who is below Notre Dame?
Below Notre Dame, you have Bama, BYU, Miami's out of question, Utah, Vanderbilt. I think Vanderbilt's out of question. Michigan's out of question as well.
No, between Notre Dame and Texas. Who are the teams between Notre Dame and Texas? All of those, right?
Yeah, I was looking at this week's AP rankings, not the CFP from last week. Texas was 16 in the CFP last week.
Yeah, Texas ain't getting in. And if you were to survey A&M or, for that matter, Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas Tech, if you were to survey those teams and ask outside of Ohio State or Indiana who they least would want to face, I think a lot of them would say Notre Dame.
Fair.
I mean, I think they're highly thought of.
Fair.
Yeah, they lost 2 games to start the year, but they were they were on the road, and they have. And yes, their schedule is not the most daunting, but they've been pretty solid. And I think he's a really good coach. I wouldn't want to play him. Would not want to play him. Stephen Holder, ESPN.com. We will find out what is the happening, what is the latest in terms of the kicking competition and a couple of areas of major question of health for the Colts. We'll do it with Stephen next. I don't know if you know this or not, Eddie, but this song adequately describes my three favorite people on earth. Just so you know.
Me, myself, and I.
I
Interesting.
love me some me, man. No question about that. Joining us now on the Java House Peel and Pour guest line from ESPN.com, Stephen Holder is our guest. Stephen, let's begin with this kicker situation for the Colts. We were just discussing there apparently is one who is going to be in the building at some point today. Do we have any idea how many might be in or where things stand?
No, but keep in mind they have likely been kind of keeping tabs on the kicking market for the last couple of months. You know, seeing how they lost their kicker. They did do a workout with several kickers earlier this year, so they have a pretty good feel for what's out there, and at least some options of what's out there. So I think they can probably move pretty quickly. I thought they might have some. I thought they may have a workout yesterday, and I did not see any visits listed for the Colts on the NFL transactions, so that didn't happen. So what I took from that was they probably have an idea of what they want to do, if that makes sense. So we will see. But I fully expect some movement there, or at least it seems likely at this point. Let's put it that way.
Now let's get to a couple of items from a health standpoint, Stephen, and we'll start with Sauce Gardner. I have not heard any specific today. Yesterday we talked to Ralph Reif, and he wasn't speaking of Sauce Gardner's case specifically, but rather in generalities, and simply saying that Gardner in the type of injury, if it is what we thought it was going to be, a calf strain, that's probably a 3-week deal. Where do things stand, or do we have any more information?
No, we don't, but I think we can kind of ballpark it based on what we do know, which is we have some sense about the injury, the exact severity, the exact diagnosis in particular we haven't gotten, but we can, just piece it together. The other thing that we can, I think, take some direction from is Shane Steichen being very adamant that he does expect him to play at some point before the end of the regular season. There are 5 games left, so that's not a big window. And that they are not, as of right now, there are no plans to put him on injured reserve, which is 4 games minimum. So the 3-game window, is a ballpark guess, I would say. The other thing I can throw out there, I don't know if their injuries are exactly the same, but Kenny Moore earlier this year had what we thought was an Achilles tear initially. If you recall, he went down on the field, also a non-contact injury, and we feared the worst. It turned out it was a strain, and I don't know if it was more of the same area as Gardner. He said it's more in his calf rather than the Achilles. So I don't know. I didn't do the MRI, obviously. But all I can tell you is that Kenny Moore, with something kind of sort of similar, he missed 3 weeks and then was back. So hopefully that is a good guidepost for us.
We played earlier, Stephen. Stephen Holder's my guest, Java House Peel and Pour guest line. He's from ESPN.com. Shavarius Ward, Mooney Ward, obviously is a very good player and has had the concussions, came back. He had a big play against Kansas City, but I think he's looked a little off. And I know that he had the personal tragic loss of his daughter. And I believe that we just marked, I always hate to use the word anniversary because I think of anniversary as a celebration, but you get my point,
right,
of that happening in his life. But we played an audio clip from him where he was saying that he just doesn't play as well when his head is cloudy and his body is cloudy. And I took that as him talking about, because he was so open and transparent of coming off of the concussion and how close he was to thinking he would never play again. Do we have reason to believe that and I don't know if he was somebody said no, Jake, he was talking about his daughter there. But I think he's been so open about the fact that coming off that concussion just really set him back a little bit. Do we think he's even close to 100%?
So I think he's probably 100% physically. I think he was talking about his mindset. Of course, we're all just interpreting, of course, right? But you are correct. The 1 year, mark, for lack of a better word, of his daughter's passing. I believe it was just a couple of weeks ago. He had some really, I think, really, I would say, sort of painful remarks that posts that he had on Instagram around that time that I think spoke to his state of mind, and it was not great, to be completely honest. It was really hard to read some of the things that he posted, and none of us can even imagine unless we've been through that, right? So I get it in terms of, like, I understand why he would be so real and so raw and saying things like that publicly. So in light of all of that, I think he's just talking about that. I think he's still processing what happened, and especially in light of the time of year. I remember when he signed his contract, he even said that going back to San Francisco was not an option for him. And not because of anything the 49ers did, not because they're not a good team or an organization. He said, there's just too much history there. I can't go back. And his daughter's mom was like, his girlfriend was like, I can't be back there. She left, in fact, and went back home to Texas, if I'm not mistaken, after the little girl passed away. So I just think this is a young man who's just been through a lot. And I hope that he's getting the help that he needs. I don't know. I stay away from the topic from him because he has been clear that it's hard to talk about. So I try not to go there. But I do hope that he's getting the help he needs because, having seen it happen in my own family, I don't want to get like super off the topic here, but like having seen family members go through that, you never heal. There's no healing. It's just like you just deal with it, there's no, I'll be better, I'm going to get over it. You don't. You just don't. You just get a little bit better and you cope. So I just hope he's doing okay.
From a health standpoint, Daniel Jones is the other player that obviously we now know, and I thought his mobility looked very compromised, Stephen. Has there been any indication of, I guess, a two-part question? Can this, from now to the end of the year, in any way get better is the first question. And the second is, would the Colts explore the possibility of getting him rest?
So the first question, in terms of it getting better, all I can tell you is what they believe, the Colts, and that answer is yes. They believe there will be improvement, and for whatever it's worth, Daniel Jones himself said that in the Texans game, he felt better than he did in the Chiefs game. I'm with you. I do agree he was compromised some. And I've said this a few times, and people got defensive and said, I think he did a good job, and he's fighting it out and toughing it out. Yes, that's true. But we can also admit that, like, he's not 100%. They can't call all of the plays available to them in the playbook because some of them require him to use his legs, and they're not going to do that right now. So they are compromised. There's no question about that. And they're not going to admit it. They're not going to talk about it, but they are. It is a fact. And you can do with that whatever you want, but that is true, and there's nothing to argue about. As for your second question, will they consider sitting him down? No, not unless something drastically changes. There is absolutely zero intent to play Riley Leonard, and if they did, I think you would see a very, very, very basic approach to the game plan, and it would not be one that would put you in position to win. They're not ready for him to play. They don't think he's ready to play. Let's put it that way.
Should they be going to a more basic offensive game plan anyway, of more featuring Jonathan Taylor?
Well, I hear you. I think there's some merit to that, but there's a difference though. There's a difference. I think there's going to be times when we talked about the complexity of their offense and all the things that they want to do to attack defenses, which is what led to Daniel Jones becoming the starter. So given all of that, I don't think you're going to be able to have Riley Leonard come in there who doesn't have the physical skill set that either of the other two quarterbacks have, Anthony Richardson being the other. He's not available, but I'm just throwing him in there. Riley Leonard's physical skill set is far below, I believe, either Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson. So even though, yeah, I hear your question, should they simplify the offense? Yes and no. It's still the NFL, and you got to come out there with a full menu because defenses are too good. Because if you are too predictable, you're dead. You're dead. It's over. You're going to lose. You got to have a menu that challenges defense and keeps them on their toes and make them predictable. So that's just kind of where they are.
Stephen, what we talked about this last week, and then even yesterday, and I didn't know this, Stephen. DEFCON, you always hear people say like, "Oh, we're at DEFCON 4, DEFCON 3, whatever." So apparently, the lower the number, the more the pucker factor. Okay, so. Right. So DEFCON 1 means that like there's a huge mushroom cloud, and then DEFCON 4 means like we're okay here, right? So the Colts are at what level of DEFCON?
Well, I think the answer would be different. We were talking about the state of the world, but that's not the question.
Yes.
Everything's fine.
We're speaking in terms of the Colts season itself. Yes.
Yeah, everything's fine. I'd say it's. I think DEFCON 3. Ask me again on Monday. I might have a different answer. But I think they have an opportunity. I think it was it might have been Mooney Ward who said this. I think he's right about this. He said, everything we want to achieve is still in front of us. He is right about that. Like, they're not going to be the number one seed in the AFC, I don't anticipate. Excuse me. But he's not wrong. I mean, they can still control their own destiny. They can still handle their business. The problem is they have some challenges that are going to be difficult to deal with, as we already outlined, and most of them have to do with injury. And that just is what it is. But I do think if they win this game, it puts you at 9-4. It takes a little bit of the pressure off and lets you reset a little bit. And then you just got to finish decent. They don't have to win out or anything, but they got to win. They got to win some. They got to win 2 or 3 of these to really be in position to win this division. So I think it's DEFCON 3, unless and until they lose this game, or if they win this game, maybe it goes down a little.
It's the curious thing here. I think partially, Stephen, and I'm guilty of this, because the Colts got out to the blazing start at 7-1, and just literally every button they pushed was unlocking every door. It was just fabulous. You kind of didn't pay a lot of attention to what Houston and Jacksonville were doing. Houston clearly, we just saw it. I mean, we know what Houston is, and defensively they're outstanding. But Jacksonville is one, because the Colts have yet to see them, and they got to go down there this weekend, that I've not paid as much attention to, other than I keep waiting for Trevor Lawrence to show me why he's Trevor Lawrence. That said, what challenges does Jacksonville present, and what is Jacksonville doing that has now put themselves in this thick along with Indianapolis?
Well, I mean, for one, I would say their schedule was not favorable early on, which is kind of the opposite of what the Colts had going on, right? So sometimes, it is difficult to know what you're looking at, when you're assessing teams early in the season. It's not always that easy. And I've always stressed this, like, don't make snap decisions after a few weeks, because you just don't know what you're dealing with. So that's one thing. And then I'd also say, like, their defense is definitely going to be a challenge. That's real. I think that they have a quarterback who is capable. I don't think that Trevor Lawrence keeps you up at night, but he's also like a guy that if you make mistakes on defense, like, he'll beat you. He'll make the plays to beat you. That's just what it is. I just think they're also, from everything I can tell, and I'm like you, like, have I paid a lot of attention to the Jaguars? No. I mean, because there didn't seem to be a good reason to do that. But they do seem to have more depth than they have had. They do seem to be well coached this year. I got to give Liam Cohen credit. I didn't know what to expect from him. That underwhelming Duval that he gave in his press conference gave me bad vibes. I was like, I don't know if I can take this guy seriously. But, look, Nick Sirianni also had an awful opening
Boy,
press
he
conference.
did. You
right?
remember Sirianni was like, they were ready to run him out of town, right?
Listen, I got calls from colleagues around the NFL after that press conference like, who is this clown? I was like, look, I know. I watched it. It was bad. But hear me out. Hear me out. And I didn't know if it would work, but I really liked Nick, and I really thought that he had some kind of magic to him. But anyhow, he's got a Super Bowl, so despite where they are now, that tells you something. But anyhow, back to the Jags and Liam Cohen. I think they're an interesting team because, like, what's the one thing you think about when you think about that team, about going to play the Jaguars? The answer is nothing, really.
Historically, I always think that and I'm going way back, right? Just branding. Historically, Stephen, I always think of Jacksonville as being very defensively sound up front. Now, that's not to say they are now. That's just what you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's about it. I mean, they're just kind of solid. That's what I'd say. And solid, though, can get you to 8-4, which is where they are. But I don't think you fare the Jaguars in any respect, which is kind of why it's impressive that they are where they are. I don't have a lot for you. There's really not a lot there, frankly. They're just kind of plucky and solid, and you better show up. That's all I can tell you.
When you look at the schedule remaining, Stephen Holder's my guest. ESPN.com is where you can read his work, and of course, he's on the Jabba House Peel and Pour guest line. The schedule there is really no break here, Stephen. You're not that there ever is in the NFL, but if you look at it, you go to Jacksonville, then you come back, and you got to go to Seattle, which you kind of wait for Seattle to come back down to earth. I don't think it's going to happen now, right? And then the Niners, right. Jacksonville again, and then you got to finish in Houston. So there's it seemingly, when we go back to Daniel Jones, I'm kind of fixed on that. If there's an area where they need to just kind of take a game where they slow things down a little bit for him, I just don't know where it's going to be. I mean, this seems very backloaded to me, but talk me off that ledge.
No, I mean, I can't. It is what it is. I mean, you see the schedule, I see the schedule, and I do think I will say early on, I think we all knew that they were playing somewhat of a light schedule, and I don't think we ever denied that. But I also felt like, all right, they are so good offensively that I kind of don't care who they play. Like it didn't matter to me. The games would get harder, clearly, and that was a given. But I still liked them in terms of favoring them because I think when you're beating bad teams by 30, literally 30 points, you're better than just about every team out there, right? So this is the NFL. It's not college. You know what I mean? No one should be beating anybody by 30 points. So I thought, look, this is a really good team. But I do think I think it's a combination of things. It is the injuries. It is the way defenses are attacking them right now. They're really they're blitzing heavy. They're really attacking the run. It's not just Shane Steichen being stubborn about running the football. Defenses know you got a compromised quarterback and you've got the best running back in the NFL. So it's not that hard, but they have to overcome it, man. If you're good, you'll overcome it, and they've got to figure that out, but it ain't going to get easier. Losing Sauce hurts. You saw what happened immediately on Sunday. Sauce goes down. They had a plan, and the plan
they went
was
right
Sauce,
at it, didn't they?
Yeah, Sauce, you're on the left side. Oh, excuse me, you're on the right side. Mooney, you're on the left, and you guys just stay there. So wherever Nico Collins is, you get a little bit of a break when maybe you get the number 3 or 4 receiver on your side, right? Well, Sauce goes down. They said, Mooney, you got the big guy. Go get him. And then he's on him all day long. Well, that's a long day, man. So, it just doesn't get easier. And the taxing nature of that is just really tough to deal with.
Stephen, what is it going to take, or what is it about, Mekhi Blackmon that Lou Anarumo loves? Because I watch him play, and I'm like, the guy's either getting beat or they ran to his side on the Nico Collins touchdown run, and he looked like a kid in like Walmart or something when they lose track of their parents. Their arms are out to the side and completely befuddled on where they're supposed to be, and he's the guy that's in the backfield right there with the chance to either stop or slow down Woody Marks, and he looked like he wanted no business of doing that.
So when the Colts traded for him, because remember, that was a trade in the, I think right before the start of the regular season, the Colts made that trade with the Vikings and brought him here. I asked a reporter in Minnesota for a scouting report. The scouting report was as follows: he's not very good. That was it. And
That's simple.
that has proven to be true. It's proven to be true. I hate to say it, and I'm not beating up on the guy, but I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. I do not know why he's playing over Jalen Jones, and I vehemently disagree. Now, Lou Anarumo doesn't give a damn, but I'm just telling you, if he asked, that's what I'd tell him. I don't know. And I just think Jalen Jones, I'm not saying that he's Deion Sanders in his prime, but, I mean, just look at the physical differences, right? One guy is undersized, really undersized in Blackman. The other guy looks like he was made in a lab where they make defensive backs. So, and the other guy has also started an entire season and a half since he was drafted. I can't say that for Mekhi Blackman. I can say either one of those things. So it's very interesting to me. I will tell you, this is a thing you tend to see with Anarumo, though. This happened in Cincinnati as well, which is he has some very strong preferences when it comes to personnel, and it might just come down to, like, I trust this guy to execute 3 or 4 coverages that I like a lot, so I'm going to play him. Whereas the other guy's a better player, but maybe he's basing his decision on one little aspect of the situation, and the rest of us might see it a lot differently. But that's what he has done in his history.
Stephen, I realize what the standings are, okay? But I want you to tell me, in your thought, in your gut, when you analyze top to bottom, and I know that this is fluid over the course of a year, but right now to start December, tell me the 4 best teams in the AFC.
All right. I put New England in there. I don't think they're as good as 11-2.
Okay.
I think their record's a little inflated, but look, it is what it is, right? 11-2. Patriots, Broncos. I think because I just think that much of Sean Payton. I mean, they're 10-2 anyway, but I'm just saying, like, I think Sean Payton is the real deal.
Okay.
Beyond that, it gets murky. I would say, it really is tough. I mean, I think I want to put the Colts in there, but I don't. It just doesn't feel like the trajectory's there.
Let me give you a couple teams, and I want you to tell me if you think the Colts are better, same as, or below right now. You ready?
Okay. Yeah.
The Chargers. And I don't know if they beat them. I get it, right? Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
Above.
They're such an underwhelming team. They're the same.
Okay. Ravens.
I would say same, because they both have flaws.
And then lastly, the Buffalo Bills.
I like the Bills better.
Okay.
I just the quarterback is just the quarterback, frankly. I mean, comparable running game and much superior quarterback. I
just feel like the AFC, and that's why
it's wide open.
It's wide open. Yeah, I mean, there's just this,
and they have that going for them. So that's the beauty of this, right? Like, you want to play at home, so you want to win the division, but at the same time, like if let's say, Baltimore wins the AFC North or something, and you got to go play Baltimore on the road as a wild card. This is a totally hypothetical situation, right? But like, say you got to go play Baltimore on the road as a wild card. I mean, okay, all right, bring it on. You know what I mean? I mean, that's not the scenario that you want. All I'm saying is, I think you make a great point. New England's probably getting that bye unless the Broncos pull it out. So you're going to avoid them for a little bit. That first round is going to be a very winnable game no matter who it is, I feel like.
Now, at the beginning of the year, Eddie, we both had to pick the team that we thought was going to be surprisingly good. You said New England, they're 11-2. I said the Raiders. It looks like you won that one, right?
Yep.
Wow.
I don't know. I thought
Just missed.
between Pete Carroll, I felt like the Raiders, Brock Bowers, and I don't know. I thought the Raiders would be decent. That's a train wreck, right?
It is. Well, look, they missed on two things. They missed on the quarterback, on Geno, which no one necessarily predicted, but they missed on the quarterback, and they missed on the offensive coordinator. Chip Kelly, the stories that came out after he got fired were hilarious. That, like, he was calling stuff that wasn't even on the play sheet.
Yeah, it's like Bob Irsay stories, right?
Yeah, Geno Smith looking at the sideline like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, it's incredible.
How does that happen? How does the guy that's the coordinator of the offense not know the offense?
I don't know. I have no idea. He's like, we didn't even talk about that play this week. Why are you calling that?
Beautiful.
That's incredible story. So, that's what happens after people get fired. You finally learn the truth. Maybe there's some exaggeration, but I choose to believe it.
What's the latest that you're working on at ESPN.com?
So, how did we get here? What happened to the Colts? I think I highlighted 5 different things that I think have contributed to where they are. And one, I'll give you one real quick because we're probably coming up on a break. But one of them is if you go back early in the season, on first downs, the Colts were absolutely murdering people. 7.2 yards per play on first down, which is the second highest in the last 15 years, okay? That has fallen dramatically, and that's how you end up in 3rd and long all day long, and you go 3 for 10 on 3rd down.
I was going to say, their 3rd down efficiency on Sunday was terrible.
Awful. So, look, the only team, by the way, I'm talking about through 8 weeks, the only team in the last 15 years to have a better first down performance is the 2016 Falcons. Think about that.
The 2016 Falcons?
Yep, that's the Super Bowl team. Yep. That was 28-3.
28-3, baby. 28-3. Back when Matt Ryan was Matt Ryan, before he was Colts Matt Ryan, and that's what I hate to say this, man. I thought Daniel Jones looked like Matt Ryan Colts mobility on Sunday, but that's the leg. I get it, right? And we got to see how they overcome that. All right, Stephen, appreciate the time as always.
All right, you got it.
All right, Stephen Holder joining us, ESPN.com. Did you say we got tickets to give away, Eddie? More of them?
Motley Crue tickets. Motley Crue, yes.
The Crew, baby. What's your favorite Motley Crue song?
I'll come back with it. How about that?
All right. Sounds good. And we'll give the tickets away for Motley Crue. That's an August concert, if I'm not mistaken, right? Coming up in the summer?
Yes.
I will give away the tickets next. Okay, so tickets to give away for Motley Crue. You know, I got to think. I take that back. I saw Motley Crue at Gamebridge, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And it was like nonstop energy. Now, they handed the camera to the crowd and let the crowd pan around and put themselves up on the video board, and that got interesting.
Oh, boy.
I think that definitely got interesting.
Was there some nudity?
Yes. But it was a fun show. It was an awesome show. And the tickets that we have to give away, Eddie always determines when he's playing Santa Claus basically and is giving these things away, we always allow Eddie to determine the fashion in which we will do it. What I always appreciate is because you assume when you do what we do for a living, I always assume that like no one's listening. Literally. You hear me say that all the time. I'm self-conscious about it. Okay? And the other day, I was out and a guy comes up and said hello, which I always appreciate. And then I always ask people, just out of curiosity, like, how did
They
you
appreciate
how do
you appreciate the hello, just the hello?
Well, I appreciate that someone says like, hey, I listened to the show, And I said, because I'm always kind of incredulous about it, and I said, well, how do you know what I look like? Because it's radio, it's not television. And this guy actually said, as soon as you talked, because we were in a store and I was asking for something, and he said, I heard you talking and I knew that it was your voice. Very flattering and very appreciative. And I told him the same thing. I just assumed that nobody's ever listening. So then when we give tickets away, as we're doing for Motley Crue, August 28th at Ruoff. August the 28th at Ruoff is the date for these tickets. Tesla and Extreme will also be there. Now, Extreme...
That's a car.
That's right. The Tesla, not the car, but the band, okay?
Okay.
Signs. Tesla will be there, and then Extreme. Now, I think Extreme... Didn't Extreme do More Than Words? Am I off on that? I always get Extreme, and then there was another one. Somebody help me out here. Look up More Than Words, Eddie, and see who did that song. More than words is all I ever need.
Well, sure as heck wasn't you. Yes, it was Extreme.
Okay, that's what I thought. That song, when it came out, the spring break of my senior year of high school, was massive. Massive song. In what fashion are we giving away said tickets, Eddie?
We have 2 pair to give away, Jake. So two, yeah.
Thank you. Jinx, you owe me a Coke. Okay, and we're doing that in what fashion?
You want to do some get to know your listener?
Oh, that's always fun. Who do we have lined up?
We will go with Jeff.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Jake?
I'm tired today, Jeff, but other than that, I'm okay. I didn't sleep great. Jeff, have you called the program before?
I have, a long time ago.
But you're still listening? Now, is your radio broken? Is that the problem?
No, we were on a 2-hour delay today. I'm a teacher, and so I was able to get a little prep period here and catching the show.
Okay, so Jeff, if you don't mind me asking, you said you're a teacher. We commend that profession. You would be teaching what grade?
Right now I'm teaching kindergarten through 5th physical education.
Oh, nice. Okay, and
excellent.
Do you mind? Are you allowed to say the school?
I am on prep, so yeah, I'm not. It's not like I'm in class. Yeah, I'm at School 57 on the east side in Irvington.
Okay, outstanding. And then now, do you still? Let me ask you this from the physical education standpoint. One of my favorite things to do, and apparently this is other people have mentioned this as well. Do you have a parachute the kids play with?
Usually on field day we do. On field day we get the parachute out.
Just out of curiosity, because I loved the parachute, and Mr. Belkey at Alice Mill Elementary School was fabulous in coming up with games for it. But who was the first person that decided the parachute would be a good idea, and what sort of physical education do we get out of that?
I guess you're getting arm exercise out of it, and and balance, trying to keep the ball that you have on there. But I know that they don't make them like they used to. I mean, you can't find one. The school I'm at, we have one that's probably been here since the 60s, but they don't make them at that quality anymore.
Really? So don't go parachuting is what you're saying, right? Or do we see an increase in parachute accidents?
I don't know. That's the parachuting's not for me.
Have you ever been skydiving?
No.
Eddie, have you been skydiving?
I've not.
I've been twice. That's one more time than I needed to, but at least I, successfully did it twice. Okay, Jeff, do you like Motley Crue?
I do. I was supposed to see them in Buffalo when COVID hit and the tour was canceled.
Were you living in Buffalo, or did you decide to go spend a weekend in Buffalo?
I was going to go spend a weekend in Buffalo, go to Niagara Falls, and the trip never came through.
Have you done it since?
No.
Niagara Falls is fabulous. Let me tell you something. You know what? I'd gone to Niagara Falls as a kid, and my buddy Byron and I, on the road trip we do each year, this most recent installment, we went to Buffalo, we went to Niagara Falls, and I thought to myself that it was going to be like this cheesy tourist deal. And because I went as a kid, and so I thought, it probably just seems big on my mind because I was a kid. It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. You really should go. So I can't get you to Niagara Falls, but I can get you to go see the cruise. So we will hook you up with the tickets. Jeff, I appreciate it, and appreciate the work you're doing with the kids. Eddie, who's the other one we have lined up?
We have Austin and we have Jake.
Well, I think we know which way I'd go with that.
Austin it is. I'm just kidding. Jake.
Jake, what's up?
Hey, Jake, how are you?
I'm well. How old a fella are you, Jake?
52.
Oh, we're the same age then, Jake. Have we talked before?
Yeah.
Have you called the show before?
Never talked to you on the phone before, but I have met you at a Colts meet and greet years ago.
Oh, was I a nice guy or was I a jerk?
No, you're pretty good. I think you hit on my girlfriend, but other than that, you're pretty good.
Now, hold on. In what way did I hit on your girlfriend?
I'm just kidding. She's sitting right here, so I'm making her laugh.
Now put her on the phone. What's her name? Put her on the phone.
Oh, Lord. Hi, Jake.
And your name is Mrs. Jake. What's your name?
I'm Jenny. I'm his wife now, but yeah.
What,
Yeah.
Judy, you said?
Jenny.
Oh, Jenny, okay. So, Jenny, just out of curiosity, is this fact or fiction that I was overly friendly towards you when I met Jake?
I mean, I don't know. Can we go in between?
I told you.
I'm a folksy guy. I'm a nice guy. Listen.
No, I'm just
Okay, so,
No,
Jake, let me
great
ask you this. How often do you listen to the program, Jake?
Pretty much every day. I'm in sales, so I'm in the car a
Okay,
lot.
my girlfriend's name is Go. Can you name it?
Yeah, I don't remember.
You're not helping me out here because, see, I'm hoping if she's listening, which she doesn't know that I do a radio show, but if she is,
She's got a
then
major crush on JMV.
Yeah, she's saying to herself, she's like, wait a minute, you were talking to Jenny, and now you never mentioned me on the air. That would be Shannon, by the way, Jake. Shannon.
Shannon.
Jake,
I did know that. I just didn't think of it.
Just out of curiosity, Jake, and I was going to ask you if you thought the name, helped out with the ladies, but we won't go there. So let me ask you this question, Jake. When you were a kid, since we are of the same age range, which more often did people do and say to you? Did they call you Flaky Jake, or did they tell you to go bake a cake? Which one did you hear more often in childhood?
I heard neither one of those. Mine was Jake the Snake or Jake the Snake Roberts. With
Yeah,
kids back in the day.
I did hear that, although clearly I grew up with more creative kids than yourself. But yes, Jake the Snake for sure. And don't step on a rake was also a common one. I'm talking like when I was 4 or 5 years old, right? All right, so do you like Motley Crue, Jake?
Absolutely.
Apparently, this will shock you. My favorite song from Motley Crue is Girls, 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 right? I mean, I know that'll stun you here, apparently, right? And Jenny seems stunned as well. We will get you guys on your way to Ruoff to go see Motley Crue. I appreciate you listening to the show. It got me in trouble there, Eddie. Come on.
I didn't do anything. I took the calls.
Get to know your listener turned into get to know your host, right?
Yeah, just a little bit.
I'm telling you right now. And Jake was standing right there, apparently, when this indiscretion took place. We'll come back. We'll find out what J&B's got lined up for the big program. We'll do it as part of the crossover brought to you by the good guys at Love Heating and Air, love-hvac.com. 317-353-2141 is the telephone number. Thanks to Stephen Holder, Scott Agness for joining us on the program today. Dave Revsine as well. Indiana and Ohio State Big Ten title game coming up on Saturday evening. Lucas Oil Stadium, Indiana and Louisville in basketball. Saturday afternoon, Gainbridge Fieldhouse. JMV has arrived, getting set for his program.
Who's your favorite
today.
all-time Louisville Cardinal player?
That's a really good question. I really liked Louisville as a kid because Denny Crum and my dad kind of looked alike. I would say Rodney McRae, maybe.
I'm disappointed, though.
Purvis Ellison?
No, I'm disappointed because you didn't say Jeff Hall and his grape smuggling pants.
Jeff Hall would be very high on the list.
My man, there was no room to maneuver in his drawers. You know what? Back in 1986, Jeff Hall.
No room. He did have some John Stocktons going on, didn't he?
Here's what's funny. One of the better teams of the 1980s was that 83 team that lost to the semifinals to Houston in Albuquerque. That was one of the better teams, not just Louisville teams, but college basketball teams.
Do you remember what happened in that game?
Well,
there was a famous or infamous moment that took place with a coach in that game.
Oh, yeah, Guy Lewis threw his towel.
Correct.
Yeah.
And Scooter McRae, I think, right?
Yeah, he threw his towel out there. And they called it tactical.
That did not go well. That was such a good. I was just talking about that Final Four last night. The 83 Final Four, which featured North Carolina State, Houston, Louisville, and
Georgia.
Georgia is the fourth team.
Vern
correct.
Fleming.
That is correct. And that was the year, I think Dominique Wilkins left the year before, right?
He did, yeah.
Yeah. Man, that was such fun times, though.
That was an incredible time. And can you imagine they played, and I know that's a great place to play. Everybody loves it. But let's be honest, it's a crap hole by Final Four standards. Can you imagine
John,
them playing in that?
So I went to the pit, I don't know, probably 7 years ago, and went out and reenacted the Derek Whittenberg shot and the whole deal, right? But it's a 17,000 seat arena. Do you remember in the mid 90s? The NCAA tried to go back to that, to the Final Four of playing in the smaller arenas. They went to Charlotte in '94, I think, and then it's well, look, if you can get 70,000, you're gonna go play it in those big venues, right? But I just loved. Do you remember when ESPN used to do the 30-minute vignettes afterwards, recapturing the Final Four, and I loved those.
And that used to be in the afternoon instead of these yip-yappers.
That's
yelling
exactly
at one
correct.
another.
No, that's exactly right.
I would rather watch log rolling than Stephen A. Smith and these master debaters talk it up.
In the early days of ESPN, what were your so we were just having this discussion the other day with somebody.
Keanu Tom. My answer is always going to be watching Keanu Tom do anything. For my self-preservation. Keanu Tom.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you what. Keanu Tom floated my boat, buddy.
What about the roller derby, the LA Thunderbirds, and one of the gals on that was also on ESPN back in the day?
I can't imagine. How am I not in better shape back then? Because all I did was watch Denise Austin and Keanu Tom. I should have been doing the aerobics along with him, but I was just watching. The aerobics was
of a different nature. Australian rules football. How much of that did you watch?
There was a point in time when Keanu Tom was the hottest chick on earth.
Oh, undoubtedly, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and then she was in Playboy too, and I have that Playboy somewhere. I'm not getting rid of it. It may actually be back there. I may be packing that up a little bit later on.
Yeah, when we move, right?
Yeah. So we're going to move. I got boxes in, only a couple of boxes. Are we going to have a memorial walkout escalator parade? One time that I've worked here, the escalator may work. Maybe a little escalator parade.
We could all get stuck in the elevator together. That happened to me the other day.
That'd be great, wouldn't it?
It happened to me the other day, yeah.
And then maybe, we'll play the horns that happens when you flush the toilets here.
For those who don't know, we're moving buildings from where we are currently located.
And this building is just falling apart, too, by the way, so it's a good thing. It really is. So
now, should we not divulge the parking dilemma that's going on?
Oh, here's what I'm keeping my card to see if it's going to be useful.
I know.
Later.
I know.
I have 3 cards. So I'm going to give them 2 that don't work and then keep my one that works and see if I can still get in here.
The parking situation is awesome, though.
Do you think it's bad that I'm telling everybody that right now?
I don't know that I would. A good magician never reveals his tricks, right? So what is on the show today, John?
Danny Cannell is going to talk like you've been talking about IU Ohio State. the rest of the championship games. We'll talk about Fernando Mendoza. Danny Cannell joins us. I know Greg Rakestraw with the high school football state title games. That was an outstanding Friday and Saturday. And JJ with a not-so-outstanding Pacer game last night. But it was better than Miles Turner in Milwaukee. Let me tell you that.
It was.
Hey, Giannis is so gone. I watched him last night. He is so checked out. And maybe it's because it's this time of the season. He is so checked out from what is going on. That is not a good sign.
He looks like a guy with one foot out the door for sure,
He
right?
And like I said, Miles is going to be left with Karl Anthony Towns and Miles McBride.
Kyle Kuzma.
And Ryan Rollins.
Yeah,
And
you're
Jericho
right.
Sims. That should be great.
All right, John's up next. We'll be back with you. I appreciate you listening to Query & Company back at noon tomorrow.